Today's workout, I'm doing hanging, handstands, mobility or flexibility, and I'm going to do a tiny bit of flow work as well. And I'm using these wrist wraps for basically anything that I can in my workouts at the moment to deload this niggling case of golfer's elbow. So what I'm basically doing is I'm still doing my workouts with golfer's elbow, but I'm doing it in a way that I use my wrist flexors as little as possible and my grip. So this is one exercise where I can do this, because in a minute I'm going to be doing hanging transitions and I can't use wrist wraps for that. So I'm just deloading where I can. It's quite uncomfortable on my wrists. It's a very weird sensation, hanging where you're not actually gripping onto the bar, but got to do what you got to do to get rid of these niggling injuries. And this is a lot better than just saying, oh, well, I can't do hanging or I can't do pulling exercises or gripping or anything like that. Okay, now I'm doing some end range strength for my hip external rotation. You got to really work for it with end range strength. Then I go into my loaded stretch. And this is, I use an incline like this because my hip external rotation isn't great. And if I go flat or on the floor, it's too much for me. And because I've had a meniscus tear in my right knee, too much lateral pressure on the knee really causes problems. So when you've had a meniscus tear, a lot of people think, oh, I can't do this and I can't do that. And everybody's different, you know. The severity of the tear is going to be different for each person and everybody's symptoms will be different. But what works for me is understanding how far I can push myself in certain positions and what causes it to be a problem. And lateral pressure, like if I try and go too far on a hip external rotation stretch, too much pressure on the knee, a lot of pain. Okay, now we're into the fun stuff. This is the single arm hang transitions. This is where it gets pretty challenging. And my results that I can produce on this exercise greatly vary from day to day depending on how painful it is on my calluses. And I can usually tell within the first rep or two how good I'm going to go, and it feels like I'm going to have a better day today. And I'm trying to, when I transition, go to a passive hang without swinging. So I'm really letting my shoulder relax here and just dropping right down into a deep passive hang. So much good stuff comes from hanging, but it really takes time for your body to adapt. So if you're going to get into hanging, I highly recommend you do it daily and don't try and kill yourself. There's a lot of progression involved in getting to where I am now with this. But if you can be patient and just do it daily, You don't worry about how good you are or how good you're getting, you just do the work, and you'll get a pretty incredible result from it. I had to learn how to grip like that and not like that to be able to manage the pain in my calluses with this, because when I was always gripping, you know, the way that you'd grip for a pull-up like that, it just killed me. There's just so much volume on the hands. Now this is the real work. Oh, man. Come on. I'm going to finish my shoulder flexibility work today with this lat stretch, and it's probably one of the most intense lat stretches I've ever done. But so much shoulder pain comes from tight lats. So if you're in the earlier stages of shoulder pain, do not try this stretch. It'll kill you. There's a lot that I recommend you do before this one, but for me, that's okay. It's very challenging for me, but I can handle it. For me, this is a real shoulder exercise. Of course, it's developing mobility through your squat as well, but it's mostly about the end range strength for shoulder flexion. And that's where the real challenge is for me. Come on. The way you pair exercises together is a really valuable lesson to learn for workout efficiency. And so You know, at the grassroots, I always talk about pairing pushing and pulling exercises. So you do your pushing and pulling one-to-one, but then when you go into like a movement style workout like this, where you're doing like hanging and handstands and mobility and stuff, I just think of how can I pair exercises together that don't use the same muscle groups, so that I'm basically I never have to stop and rest in my workout. Like I can go from hanging into a lower body flexibility movement, and then back to hanging, and then same thing with that like squat arms up. I can go from that to this, because you know the real work in that squat arms up movement for me is in the shoulders, so the work here is in the hips, and you get so much more done in the same amount of time when you pair your exercises together efficiently and effectively. Alright, shit first then. Fuck. Oh, that's a shit first set. Oh well. You gotta have the bad ones to have the good ones, I guess, don't you? And see, that was one of the best handstand sets I've done in a while. Funny, isn't it, how some are just terrible and some are good. Woo! Well, that was a huge difference from set 1 to set 2. Set 1 was one of the worst sets I've done in a long time, and then my second set was one of the best sets I've done in a long time. It's, I guess the lesson, if I've got anything to teach you from that, is don't beat yourself up when you do a bad set, but really think about what did you do, what could you do better next time? And that's what I did. I really just thought about how I can lock my shoulders in and push the ground away from me more, which I just wasn't doing in that first set. I was just all over the place. And then the second set, it really came together. It's okay to have bad sets. It's okay to have bad workouts. It's okay to have bad weeks. But try to see what you can learn from it. Don't allow it to bog you down. Don't get caught up in the negativity or the negative mindset that you might, fall victim to from it. And just try to learn from it. Try to move forward. It's getting better. My hold times still aren't great, but I was getting a straight line. Oh, come on. Woo. So it's just over 2 weeks now since I had my surgery, and it's been hard this last week to not push myself, but to hold myself back a little bit and allow myself to recover. So I'm hoping that next week I'm going to be able to go for it a bit more. This week the goal was just to do 2 workouts each day, which was achieved. So now next week I'll increase the intensity and the volume. So I'll, do a little bit more. Most notably, I'll add flow back into my mobility and handstand workout, because flow is, the one part where I'm really squatting down and moving around, and could have been problematic for the surgery that I had. So anyway, thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll see you in tomorrow's recovery workout.